work, no matter how interesting the subject matter is. You know, it's based on you realigning yourself and reattuning yourself, both with yourself, with the earth and the sky. This is the holy work. It's simply not an intellectual exercise, which a lot of people today in the New Age movement and in the conspiratorial community are thinking that it is. It's the accumulation of facts, you know, and then the regurgitation of those facts. It's partly that, but it's so much more spiritual. And as to the origin of the Illuminati, well, as I said, that's Ignatius Loyola in Spain formed one group that took on that name, and then later Adam Weishaupt. Now it's interesting that both of these men were Jesuits. They may have even had some Jewish blood, but it's interesting that they were first members of the Catholic Church, and then allegedly they went on to form this group. Adam Weishaupt's group as well was meant to be anti-monarchy and anti-religious, and you know, this is what most of the writers on the Illuminati believe. It's patently false. There's you know, a lot of royal people involved in the formation of both groups, and in the Adam Weishaupt group. In fact, his confederate, Baron von Nij, was not only a Knight of Malta and a member of strict observance and other secret societies like that, but was hobnobbing. He was a baron himself, and he hobnobbed with powerful royals. Adam Weishaupt was assisted by various royals, Charles de Lorraine being just one of them, an incredibly powerful figure. So there was royalists involved, and Adam Weishaupt in his retirement languished in the homes of royalty, Habsburg royalty. You know, there's the Duc d'Orléans in France, and the houses of Lorraine, as I said. Now, these are very high level, very, very high level forces. So the idea that the Illuminati was anti-monarchy is just laughable. In fact, their highest grades within, they have about 9 grades officially. Well, the 2 top highest grades that you can attain within the Illuminati are named Rex, which means king. So if you're anti-monarchical, interesting that you're still using the same terms. The terms that mean king and mean monarch. You're not a million miles away then, are you, from all the other secret societies that have similar stuff going on? But in their propaganda, you see, they wanted to attract rebellious young men of wealth and of intelligence, because you don't want a secret society full of idiots. So the idea was to attract intelligent younger men, and at that time you did that by professing opposition to those orgs and institutions that had been hated and suppressing freedom. So you did it to catch them in your net. It's a long story of how that occurred. But the one thing we have to always be aware of, and a lot of people who study Masonry, even for quite a long time, aren't aware of it, is the antiquity of these orders, both Illuminati and Masonry. What I mean is that, look, if you think that the Illuminati started in 1776 or 1700s or whatever, and if you think that Masonry also began around about the 18th century or the 17th century, you know, you're just, what can one say? You know, again, do your homework and you'll find out that there's been churches and cathedrals and monuments in France discovered, you know, that go back to the 5th century, and they show the compass and rule etched into the rock there, proving that, you know, those Masonic symbols turn up, you know, later on, and it even goes, there's even instances where this same thing has been found in ancient Egypt. But the Masons are the ones who are the propagandists. They're the ones who put out the books on Masonry and the history, isn't it? Because they're insiders. How can an outsider really know too much about the history? It's the ones who are writing the history about the Masonry and its history are going to be Masons. Now, in one breath, they do talk about Hiram Abiff and the Temple of Solomon, because they can't resist. It almost sneaks out or leaks out that they're an ancient order. But then in the next breath, you'll have Masonic books saying that no, certain kinds of Masonry began in the 1700s. So the main thing to understand is that Masonry and these organizations are very, very ancient, but they're kind of hesitant to admit that. But then what happened in the century, the 1700s, 18th century, is the profusion of Masonic lodges throughout Scotland and England, and later even France. So it's true to say that Masonry took on a new life, that there were certain restorations, there were certain upgrades, and there was a profusion of lodges opening throughout Britain and even in France, you see. And this would lead up into the 19th century, when you had lodges then, Masonic type lodges all over the world, or at least all over Europe. But those dates are definitely not the origin. And the reason why there's been this concealment, I'll be going into that in the Female Illuminati program to show you why these lies and why this obfuscation exists. It's quite important. It's part of the whole secrecy, and they certainly don't want laymen and investigative journalists finding out the truth. So there's been a profusion of books written by Masons that then talk endlessly about all of these different things that happened, in the 17th and 18th century. And of course those events are important. But then we have the Rosicrucian takeover, or move into Masonry. This happens, 100, 200 years even before that. And then before that we have the Knights Templar. We know that they're a secret society. We know that there's Masonic degrees that are named after Templar traditions. And of course then suddenly we're back into the, 10th century. That's interesting. Suddenly the 17th century has faded, from the screen, from the mind, and we're right back now into the 10th century and the story of the Templars, which any real student of Masonry knows is the story of Masonry in one form or another. And there's even more, there's Eastern groups of the Illuminati, Jewish orders like Seveners and Frankists. Well, now we're back into even earlier centuries, probably even BC. I mean, what's this Guyana, if not a secret society? But how many people have heard of that extremely high-level Jewish or Judaic fraternity? Enormously powerful, probably made up of the remnant of the Sadducees and a few Pharisees from the time of the Roman conquest of Judea. So we can go back, Masonry can go back to the oral tradition of the 70 elders that Moses addressed at Sinai. He gives the 10 commandments to the Joe Sixpack, and then there's this so-called oral tradition now. So now we're back. I mean, how far does this go? And who's this order of Melchizedek that no one wants to talk about? Well, who is Melchizedek? Zadok. Must be important, since at the Queen's coronation, Elizabeth II, the hymn from Handel, Zadok the priest, is sung. Well, what's that all about? And I'm just abbreviating here. There's other Jewish orders, the Order of Tsarion. And then, of course, the most intriguing thing for me is the whole female side, this sisterhood, which constitutes a very powerful secret society. We've got that story to tell, and as you'll see when you watch the program we're doing, that goes back way past Egypt and all the way back to the time of Atlantis. So you pull a string, in comes a rope. You pull a rope, and suddenly the elephant's in the room. That's just what comes with the study. But the antiquity of these orders is not hastily admitted, but it's quite obvious to those who've done their homework.